a quick roll call. Mark Strohsnyder is here. John Stone.
Here.
Richard Tugman.
Here.
Patricia Mosby.
Here.
George Ann Sneed is not here today, and Bill Lovern is not here today. Kim Sorensen, excuse me, is not here today. But we do have four members, so we do have a quorum. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from the November 18 meeting?
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made, properly second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. Ms. Upshur, next on the list is for Mr. Benda to be introduced.
Yes.
Do we want to go beyond, just skip over that until?
Yeah, I just texted him, and if we can just go down to the shoeless wonders.
Shoeless Wonder operating agreement? Okay.
Okay. We have been in contact with Sarah Elizabeth and the Shoeless Wonders, and there's an addendum to the operating agreement that really the synopsis of it is that they would have expended the money by certain dates. So you all did this a year ago, or maybe 2019, no, it might have been 2020. But this is just that addendum. They've made great progress, really excited for the fact that probably what they're looking at now is April of 22 to move forward on this. So we just need to, this is a technicality to extend the addendum for the next year.
Another year.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what you need to do is authorize the chairman, who's the manager of authority.
The LLC.
LLC to execute the extension amendment to December 31, 2020. Yeah.
2022.
2022.
2022.
2022. Yeah.
December. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We've heard from Mr. Craddock, Ms. Upshur. Would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we authorize the chair/manager of the LLC to execute the addendum.
Second.
And there is a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I assume, Mr. Craddock, that would be put together fairly soon, because that would need to be moved forward before it expires, right?
Before we leave today.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Upshur, would you like to go and do the staff report now?
Absolutely. So I told y'all this was going to be a short and sweet meeting, but we got a lot of things going on. We submitted our budget request on December 8th. The city requested a flat budget. I think I told you all last time, we're working alongside Draper Aiden on the master plan for Wigington Road and Ivy Creek Innovation Park. Really excited about how that's going, and Reed has put all of these sites, there are access issues. So Reed has put into the CIP capital improvement program, the sites. There are two sites, we call them Ivy Creek A and B, and they're the ones you actually could access around Boxley in the park there. And so we are still waiting on the traffic study for Wigington Road. There's another site up there that, Carolyn believes could be a possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see. That's always been the big barrier there, is what that road can handle. And so the traffic study is going on now, and we should have that back. But we are in CIP for business attraction or expansion site for the first time in 17 years. So I'm calling that a win. We're also working with the airport on the property that the city owns there in Campbell County as well. So we've been working with Brown Edwards and Davidson and Doyle on the audit. I sent a note this morning just to see where all of that stands. We'll keep you all updated, but obviously those of you that have been on here a while know that our audits are coming a lot sooner than they ever used to come. And that's due to the hard work of Anna and Melissa as well as Brown Edwards. So I'll let Alicia, if she's got any updates on the job portal.
It's still going well. We've been able to work with JobsEQ/Chimera on getting some of those jobs that were not showing up. They're starting to get those into the spidering process now. So we've been really focusing on the Navigrid piece and taking that out to all the community centers and all the mandated partners in physical form, and then also digital copies that people can access in the community. So we've gotten most of those out within the last 2 weeks. So we'll see, it'll probably be more after the holidays until we see if there's, how that's going.
So you really come at this job portal from two places. Number one, the business community, and looking at it from that side of the house, connecting with folks and having them give you feedback on how any of that's working. And then the other piece of it in the longer haul is to make sure that the entire community understands that this portal, is available. And that's a much heavier lift. So the Navigrid that she is speaking about is where we bring together in a piece that's both digital and in print, like a quick guide, an easy guide for folks to look at to see where, they can get assistance, whether it's job training, all.
It's job training, yeah. It's the piece that I think when I showed you the page, it wasn't quite updated yet. So it's updated now. But yeah, it's job training, financial assistance, transportation assistance, internships, pilot programs, kind of anything that's a supportive service to get them to where they need to be.
Right. After this has been up and running for a while, is there a way to look into it to see how many placements we actually get from the use of this portal?
I don't know that we could do specific placements. We can track who's going and accessing jobs, and then to apply for a job, they actually have to go all the way through and go to the original posting. So there may be a way that we can track at least who's applied. I don't know that we could track every single thing, except for like working with the employers to say, hey, have they mentioned this? Do they say how they found you? Because that usually is a question, how did you find us? So that could be some anecdotal data that we could get to.
The only reason I ask, we are in the process of looking for a full-time person in our new bank, and the applications that we are getting seem to be coming from everywhere except Lynchburg.
Interesting.
And you wonder, is this, I don't know how the EC monitors what you're supposed to do to continue to receive unemployment benefits. If it's, hits on, or if you just show that you applied through whatever means, whether it be digital or print or whatever. So it would be interesting to see actually who is serious about looking for a job and who is just doing it to meet a requirement to fulfill their obligation to continue to get some other
Right. Well, something
benefits.
else we may be able to track is what are people searching for? What kinds of jobs are they using the tool for? And we may be able to see if it's, leaning more in one area, or, to see maybe where we need to focus in on skills building or things like that, or education.
Yeah, of the people you can track in the system, there are a lot more jobs than there are people. So when I say that, what you can track in the system, so, you're trying to reach out that if, winter's coming, no pun intended. So, the main thing there is that we, there's all kinds of information out there that people, or thoughts people have about why people are working or not working, or all of those types of things. But bottom line is there are a lot more jobs than there were folks to fill those jobs, right? And there's also, you know, I think that this portal, one of the things that I think Alicia talked about last time is that, you know, the whole gamut of job posting sites and things out there for a person that maybe is not as tech savvy or doesn't have access is very overwhelming. I mean, it would be overwhelming to me, right? And getting in Indeed and all those places. And like you said, Mark, these folks know how to hit one button and they've sent that application, you know, across the board to all kinds of folks, right? What we're trying to do with this is that you don't have to go through all of those, right? You're able to access all the jobs that are around here, you know, from that one place without going in and signing up and doing all that. And you just stop and think about it. If a person is going to, I mean, almost everybody has a smartphone, but if it doesn't work any better than mine, when you go on there to do something, it can send you to, you know, Kalamazoo when you're just trying to go back one. But some of these folks are sitting in our libraries, they're sitting over at VEC, they're sitting in places waiting in line to use a computer or to do some of those kinds of things. And you can imagine how frustrating a lot of that would be. So to me, this is a place where both employers, you know, starts the conversation, both employers and, you know, employees or prospective employees, where we can hopefully dig a little deeper, help some of the social service organizations that are out there trying to navigate, you know, people through, that it is streamlined. Because Alicia's really trying to pay attention that, you know, she keeps it, she keeps the continuity in that if there's a list, the workforce investment side of it, where training and those types of things have funding all the time, right? And not, this is a program you stood up in your church this afternoon, right? Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying the continuity there of those programs, that's what she's putting on there. Because I think things are so fragmented and people hear things from so many different places that if we can all get on board and start driving these things in one direction, number one, it's much more productive. And it's a better use of our resources to be singing from the same sheet of music. Also, it allows us to uncover some of the facts like you've referred to, Mark. Is like, are people, you know, who's out there? Are they applying for jobs? What kind of skills do they need to get those jobs? What is it that we need to do there? And when do we, you know, look at it and say, you know, we've got some work to do here.
But I'll applaud you for being proactive in this.
And not sitting back waiting for something to happen, because there's, you know, the need's been there for a while, so thank y'all for putting this together.
I think that the fact that you're having a lot of people that are applying that are not in the area is interesting too. Like, that's gonna be an interesting data piece to look at as well, to see how many people are looking at Lynchburg to come live here, you know?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, just anecdotally. Yesterday, we were talking, you know, with Dustin about web traffic. And he was just talking about how many people come through our, you know, we have the main portal with Lynchburg Loves You on it. And then you know, you go off to either if you want to work here or you want to, you know, visit here. How many people that are visiting go down to want to live here?
Interesting.
Right? Like, I will be really interested to talk to my peers that have, you know, their tourism site. Does their tourism site actually have a button on it or have something on it that said, you know, do you want to live here, and how does that work? So it's really interesting how many people go down to that, that come in on our tourism side.
It's surprisingly high.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he can monitor.
Well, we don't know if other people have that. It might not be high compared to anybody else, but from our side of it, that was a conscious decision that we made from the data that shows that our tourist is not just, if it's a leisure traveler, it's a leisure traveler with a reason. Family, friends, the universities, and the businesses. So that was cool. We are looking at ARPA on the, from the state side of it. The Industrial Revitalization Fund's supposed to get an infusion of cash, and if they'll change what some of those rules are on that, there may be some projects that can come from that. That is you know, a state fund. You all applied for that for the academy. And what it does is it's a rehab getting in and repurposing something. It's a little strange in the fact that if it's to a private sector entity, it's a loan. If it's to the public sector, you would think they'd want to get it off the books and have it earn, tax revenue. It's a grant. So, but it has been capped. The amount of money appropriated for that has been, maybe a couple $1 million. And it may be a lot more than that, but 600,000 was the amount that you all applied for, and you have to match it, right? They have talked about, having that fund be much larger, and so we would want to look at what projects, could we use that for? And Virginia Tourism is the same, it's the same way, and the city will get an appropriation from Virginia Tourism based on, the amount of, I think, sales tax that the state can trace that is tourism related here. And so we have to figure out with them what that money can be used for. I think they really want it to be used for marketing. I personally would love to be able to use some of it, redeploy it to asset development, because that's what we need. If we're going to grow, having folks come here, even from Brook Neal, because I'll take their money too, we have to make sure that we have the amenities and those kind of things in place. So anyway, that's all on the docket to move forward with. So we have plenty of work to do. And now, drum roll, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you all, if you haven't already met him, to our, he's going to think I'm blowing smoke, but fabulous new city manager, Winter C. Benta.
Good morning. I apologize for being late. I have 3 daughters, the oldest of which is on her way. What? Enough said? Okay. All right. I'm here to introduce myself, but also maybe get to understand who. So, Mr. Chairman, board members, glad to meet you. Again, apologize. I think I see some of you behind the mask. I think that's John. I think that's Richard.
Richard Tugman.
Yep.
John Stone, Patricia Mosby, and legal counsel Ted Craddock.
Yeah, Ted. So I hope this to be a dialogue. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. You were talking about relocating. We really relocated here August 2nd with my, well, actually, it was July 29th. The moving truck showed up to our house in Norfolk, Virginia. And it was during that same day that my wife and I that afternoon remembered that it was our 21st wedding anniversary. So we gave each other a quick kiss and a hug and left July 30th, arrived here, and I started work August 2nd. So I've been on the job for just over about 100 days. Lynchburg has done its best to make sure that they break me in fast and quick. My first council meeting, standing here, I saw a ruckus and leaned over and said, well, what's happening? They said there's 66 inmates at the regional jail that want to come over and see you. They were told no, and then they barricaded themselves inside the jail. So that was that day. I remember that evening because it was my daughter's 16th birthday. They said, we don't need to stand up to the Emergency Operations Center. Right now, we're going to see how this plays out overnight. I remember that early morning, about 1:30 a.m., I got a call from my emergency operations person, Melissa, and she said, I think we should stand up to the EOC. I said, okay. She said, I'll see you there. I said, can you text me the address because I haven't visited it yet? That was my 8th day on the job. So, and it's been a blast ever since. My relationship with economic development authorities, John and I went to college together and at Hampden-Sydney, and there were fellas like Michael Burnett, I don't know if you remember Michael, Craig Riley, I don't know if you remember Craig, but many people that I worked with in town were on the EDA. And the EDA was a resource for us in that those big, large purchases and other kind of squishy kind of things that city council didn't want to get their hands messy with, we did through the EDA. Things like purchasing Military Circle Mall, if you know where that is, and some other kind of big projects like MacArthur Mall and now known Waterside Live on the waterfront. We also did things most recently like a deal with the Pamunkey tribe for dirt next to the Tides baseball stadium, if you've been down there on the water. That started as a tribal casino and then changed into a commercial one. So we've had interesting relationships, good relationships with the EDA. For me, for you, it's what's the art of the possible. I know that different from what I've experienced in Norfolk, the city itself, through opportunity acquisition, bought up much of the land. And so in any one economic development deal, we own much of the dirt. And so it made it easier to do development deals. Here it's very different. The city doesn't own much, and much of it's privately held. And so the opportunity for us, and I call it an opportunity, is to leverage private stakeholders and their interest to make sure that things move. Downtown, you have invested, and I think appropriately in it. I do think that you're not done. I think it's one of those engines that you need to continue to pump and prime so as to ensure that they're lending on things like lofts because of the return on them, and they'll continue to lend so long as there's people to buy them. My concern is that we get to a point in our market where you don't have the proper resources to complement those kind of lofts. So you don't have a pharmacy, a grocer, and other things. Restaurants are fantastic, but for dual income, no kids and or retirees at some point driving up to Boonsboro to get your prescription or to get your groceries becomes obtuse, and you don't want to do that. I do think that the partnerships that we need are appropriate. Like we had the same opportunity, and rather than call them issues, I call them opportunities. The opportunity, not unlike what we had in Norfolk with the school system. Largely, much of the school system in Norfolk was not accredited, and that was a wrestling thing that we did. We'd have dual income, no kids, up to a certain point, and when they started to have kids, it became this stretch pull of I'm going to move into the more suburban community because it's that expense piece, right? Private school as opposed to public school. And so I do think that the relationship with Lynchburg City Schools is important. I know that this incoming governor has in there, and words like charter schools are like four-letter words to some people. I don't know what that opportunity is. I think that we should at least pay attention. We're never going to be, and never were we in Norfolk, nor here Loudoun County, or even Virginia Beach as far as what I think school systems should look like. And so we need to think that. And I'm a parent of two Lynchburg City School students, one at Glass, one at Sandusky Middle. And so with that, I'm in, okay? I do think that the airport is another venture. Margette was talking about ARPA monies and how to deploy those, and talking with Andrew, and I was also in a relationship with the airport in Norfolk International. So I worked with Wayne Shank, I worked with Robert Bowen. They're transitioning to a new person. I don't know who it is just yet. But I'm familiar, and so that it's like with anything, with any tenant, it's what are the proper incentives to ensure that the tenant, that fee that they pay when they come in is lower, so that they're interested in the return they get on a flight or a system too. And I think that's the opportunity we have is with a northern route either to Chicago or to Washington, D.C. I think the Chicago one is viable. It's just changing to different, and Andrew's much more poetic than I am on this. It's just bigger airplanes or smaller airplanes when it comes to it. And defraying or reducing that cost in that first year. And you don't do it through the enterprise because that's illegal. If you Google Newport News and see how that went for that guy out there. So you usually run it through an EDA. So that's an opportunity that I've put before council, and I hope that you're open to. As far as I know, in talking to BWXT, they'd say the DC route is probably of more interest to them as far as the back and forth that they do. Other things, I do think that arts and culture are impactful for cities. We named and claimed that we're the center of the hub for arts and culture for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And you'll see I do things like that as I name and claim it, even though it may not be true, because why not? And so we were also the most multimodal city in the Commonwealth of Virginia, so did that one as well. I do think that arts and culture is important. I think we should invest in it. I think public art is of import for folks in all over the city. I think that while those don't have revenue generating aspects to them, I think the quality of life is one of those things that makes people attracted to an area. So it's not always necessarily commercial retail and/or businesses. It's also just quality of life. People will move for outdoors. They will move for scenic views. They will move for architecture. They will move for community. They will move for diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And so those are the things that I am, and remember, I went to undergraduate with John, and in between that and law school, I went to seminary. So my judges out of law school said I went from heaven to hell. And so in that, you'll find that sometimes I sound like a preacher. So I'm going to preach the gospel as the city of Lynchburg to any and everybody that will listen to it. And so I'm glad that you've listened to me this morning and taken that time. And again, I apologize for being tardy. Any questions?
Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Winter, what do you, and I know you're only 100 days into the job, so
I'm over 100, actually.
over 100.
Yeah.
What do you see as the potential with the airport? I mean, that's sort of that, it's got tons of potential. We've got land out there, but it's going to take money to develop some of those out parcels to increase the
I think it's
revenue
partnerships.
opportunities.
It's partnerships like Campbell County, which I think
We're well on the way.
Right. So it's the military mall component. It's the art of the willing, and so we didn't have any capital. So if you look back, there was legislation put in that the state gave us or afforded us a board to leverage two surrounding cities, at least Chesapeake and Virginia Beach, because the confluence of 64 and 264, it was just made sense as far as, so you can leverage dirt, but there's a formula by which that I think that participating localities can get a kickoff. That it's just at some points it's lawyers and agreements and things. Somebody's moving. Oh, here we go.
Sorry.
That's all right. This is Mechi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Metchie's new, she's amazing.
Oh my God, thanks. Keep going.
Yeah, she is. So I think there is a tremendous opportunity. Plus, the good news is that your airport, our airport for that matter, at some point had more flights to it and in and out of it. So a matter of just traffic. So in that, it's interesting. I've got a child at the University of Vermont. So figuring out how to get out of here up there is interesting. And so it's $300 less to go up to Roanoke, or $200 less, and I'm sure central doctors and things like that. So I do think it's a matter of, Andrew, if you were here, would tell you that most of the airplanes that are out are 85 to 90% full. So I think that there is interest in their use. It's just a matter of getting airlines to, and I think for me, it was before I left, we did a deal with, not Spirit, it's another one, Breeze. So I think that is an opportunity as opposed to some of the larger airlines that hubs, so that's why we go to Charlotte, because Charlotte's a hub and that comes out. I think some of these more mid-tier kind of interesting, more Nashville, more Memphis, more kind of those areas. So I think things like Spirit and I think we can get into the state's pocket through Grove, Virginia on some of those things. So not simply the dirt. Plus, I'll tell you, everyone here, it's interesting. Ted? Mm-hmm. Ted, I feel like Ted, having met Ted once now, I've met more people here in Lynchburg, and I think, Ted, you might be one of these people as well. Do you have like a pilot's license? Do you fly? Gosh, I would. Everyone I meet has some kind of that's a hobby out here. Like the last thing I want to do is to get into a small 4-seat airplane and go out for a John, do you do it? No, I mean, I read my deputy city manager does it, and so does one of our council people, and I'm just, it seems like it's a hobby here in Lynchburg. I don't want to do it. So in that respect, that's a bit of a business for us as well as some of these. And then I'll say this: the schools of higher education, while they don't pay taxes, nor does Centra. I'm just going to a little bit. But Norfolk, the same thing. Nearly half of the dirt was non-taxable with the port, the Naval Station Norfolk, and a couple other things. So I get it, but I do think that people, doctors, students, what have you, do create a return. And I think there are other ways in which to partner. And I did some of that down there in Norfolk as well.
Central does not, but Piedmont does.
Well, you got there you go.
But you didn't reciprocate when we put out our RFP for your business, so it's
Oh.
a two-way street, right, Wyndham?
Is the time,
Absolutely.
do I have the timer on?
I have no idea.
Okay, I just want to make sure I don't go over my time.
myself do not touch the time.
Any other questions or anything?
How do you see the relationship with Liberty?
I told Jerry Prevo when I met him, I said, Jerry, I don't know what came before, and I'm just interested in what happens next. I'm reading Falwell Inc. Have you ever read that book? I don't know if you know this. Dr. Falwell's daddy killed his brother. I don't know if you knew that. They were bootleggers. And so, interesting background. I see them like I see, and I'm going to offend somebody, University of Alabama. I've been out there to a couple ball games. Massive stadium. Maybe the only difference, John, for us is there's not a lot of alcohol at a tailgate, but there's a lot of people. And so for me, all those students eating in restaurants and what have you, and I told him too, I said, I know that your endowment's over $3 billion, and I want to get into that bag of cash. So for me, I see him as a partner. I want to do public-private partnerships with them. I know that reading Falwell Inc., I'd read a book by the devil if I can get a leg up on him kind of a thing. So that, just looking at their history and their past, and I know it's deep-seated for Lynchburgers as far as maybe feelings and those type of things, but I really don't care. I see him as an asset. That's what in a ball game with that, is it Malik? Is that their quarterback that might be like top? That's a draw. That's people in that. I'll tell you this too. Malls are dying or dead. Our mall, they've invested close to, I don't know how many. I meet with Craig Pettit and he's developing the out parcel. Heck yeah. Rather than have that dead, dormant thing up there on Candler's, now you can run up there and go to Dick's and other things. And inside, they're, expanding the food court. So I see my partnership, my, relationship as, hey, keep going.
Well, in 08, 09, 10, when everybody else was licking their wounds trying to figure out what the next step was, we were still expanding. Wards Crossing was growing, and it's because of the mountain, of what's going on the mountain. And they were, the only cranes in Lynchburg were on Liberty Mountain.
And I'll say this too, just having met Jerry, he is, by way, he flies back and forth to Alaska, and I think everyone's trying to figure out who's next or what's next. But he is of the same, he wants to do public-private partnerships. He wants to be, he does it more eloquently than me, but wants to be a school of the city, not above it. So take him at his word.
Proof is in. Show us. Don't tell us. Show us.
Well, and there's a couple things turning. We actually have we're renewing a relationship. It's a subsidiary. There's you talk about the airport. We're renewing some of those leases that'll come forward in January, and we're at win-win. So it's revenue that obviously goes back to the airport and doesn't necessarily come to our general fund, but it's good. Where they're expanding, building. So for me, when I was out there for a meeting, it was cool to see the basketball team show up and jump on an airplane, and that's good stuff.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I got one for you,
Yeah.
Winter. Where in your history with Norfolk, how did you guys fund the EDA? Was it project by project? Was it a standard funding process? How did that work?
Candidly, I don't know all the mechanisms by which I think predecessors in economic development, we had a couple that were in oil. And so I think the mayor, Paul Frame, that was there for 25 years, I think he socked away a couple things that they just leveraged. And it was also, when we do some of the real estate deals, we do it through the EDA. So you buy and sell, and as you did that kicked back. So, and then you do some of these bond deals, so you get an interest on that, and that usually kind of went back. So those are what I remember, and I can certainly call.
That's where Central helps us out.
They absolutely
Not
do.
Piedmont, okay.
They absolutely do, and that isn't publicized, enough. But the bonds they do through the EDA really does help fund, and all of the institutions that are
Does VES
tax
do any
exempt.
bonds
Yeah.
through us? Do they? VES, okay.
Westminster, Canterbury,
Okay.
VES, University of Lynchburg, Randolph.
I'm meeting with them
Central.
tomorrow. They're doing something out there at Westminster Canterbury. I'm not exactly
Yeah,
sure. But
they are. They just did a bond reissue,
Yeah.
and they had a little bit more on there. Yeah,
In
that's,
that space,
yeah.
that's going to continue to grow because there's such a need.
Well, I just have a couple of things.
Please.
You have mentioned the mall.
Yes.
And are there any plans for like stores where we can shop? We've got plenty of places to eat.
Right.
Plenty of places to eat. And I just hear a lot of people say, we would like to go shopping and not actually have to leave town, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, in your plans, are you aware of anything? Do you have anything working where we can? I know there used to be a Macy's.
Right.
In Macy's Clothes.
Right.
They have J.C. Penney, but
Yeah,
I
the
think
retail market has changed considerably, and it's gonna continue to change. And they actually do have a lot of new offerings out there for clothing shopping and those types of things that they've gone out and cultivated. They work all the time tirelessly to bring, other brand name retailers in here, but it's kind of like the airport. You can take them, you can take it all the way to the finish line, but if they have a change at the corporate structure or something else goes on, and you don't already have a presence there, I think we would support it. We didn't have really, the developers that owned the mall before Liberty came in, it was probably a dog in their portfolio, and they
Okay.
didn't attract. And what I'll tell you that is unusual for the mall was our mall here, all of the anchor stores, Belk, Macy's, Sears, and Penny's, all owned their own real estate in the mall and the parking spaces around it.
Okay.
So they were independent, and what the mall owned or the developer owned was just the internal, workings of that. So you could see that a Macy's or something might not want you to attract somebody else, to come in here. That's one of the reasons we partnered for the Great Wall out there on Woods Road that's part of the Residence Inn, is because Macy's would not allow the Residence Inn to use their parking or any of that, even when, they would probably want to pay people
was
to
there
come
and
and look like they were in the Macy's shopping. But it's a fantastic, what they've done out there, nothing but top there. They work all the time, and I would just encourage people. We're all trying not to, I think when you say the word mall, people's shoulders go down, because they just have a vision of it in a different
what
way.
the mall
It's
looks like.
River Ridge, and it is going to be, the future for retail is entertainment and restaurants. You've got to have an experience, right? And once we get you in there and we get foot traffic in there, then the clothing stores, the shoe stores, all that, you've got people going. I would just encourage anybody, any of you all, to go out there and walk around and see what the offerings.
Patricia, what do you want?
Are.
What would you like to see there?
Okay.
Let's get down to it.
I'll be honest, and I don't know if it would work. I would love to see a Nordstrom's. I really would.
So would the former mayor.
And
So,
I think she wanted Neiman Marcus.
so I still have a black eye from the Nordstrom's deal. So we did one. So that was MacArthur Mall. We did a deal with Nordstrom's, and so it's massive. Anybody been to Norfolk? So we own the underlying fee. So we had to leverage the dirt, and they paid us rent. And so long as sales every year, that was the nail biting that we did, is we had to be above, I think I remember this right, 19 million. And it just, so that's why like Virginia Beach has a Nordstrom Rack at Town Center, because that's just any more department stores like what that was, because it was massive. It was, Christmas time. You go to Nordstrom's and eat upstairs in the restaurant, and you do your shopping, and it was close to, I can't remember, it was a couple 100,000 square feet. So before I left, I was doing I call it the Pentagon, because I had fun naming closed session items, different things to be clandestine. And that what I was doing, and they're still doing it, was to take private leases that we held, like economic development that was in a tower and some other things that were in some privately held spaces. And I was moving all of that into Nordstrom's, because there wasn't a private philanthropic resource or private nonprofit like Liberty that was pumping money into it. And I had two two dead malls, military, and what was dying was MacArthur. And so Nordstrom's, to Marjette's point, tough for them. I think the play that we did before, we did outlets. We did Simon Premium Outlet. We turned over a golf course and developed it to a walkable, because what people anymore want, or like what Marjette said, the experience piece, and they want to move around, and they want other things like to be able to walk out and play chess in an open area with those big things, and and have their kids play, and have playground equipment by it, not just cavort inside a castle and then kind of go out. So I'd love to tell you that we could court and woo. Hey, listen, I want an Apple store. That for me is, we for 5 years kept Apple, and they didn't pay us a single red cent because we knew that we would get people into the MacArthur Mall. So I hear you. That's why I ask. It's important to know what people are interested in, what they want. So I do think that the bigger opportunity, or like the Moore and Giles and some of the homegrown businesses that you have to move into Main Street, those front forward-facing stores on Main Street, so you get that walkable feel or experience. I, like you, agree that we got plenty of places to eat, but not necessarily places to shop. And I'm really happy that very recently the fly fishing store that was down on Commerce, or where it was, moved up to Main. And so that's, eyes in. I love the skate, being a kid from the beach, skate shop on Main Street. Love seeing the kids. I don't know how the kids, they skate down. I don't know how you get back up, but God bless them. So
Yeah, it's amazing.
I have toured the academy. I've not been to an event yet. Is it the Elf? Is that this week?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think my 16-year-old's going to that one. I've got an open house. You guys are more than welcome to my house this Saturday from 4 to 6. Just pop through. Come grab a glass of cheer and a little snack or something. I buy an inordinately large tree each year, and very happy I found one of those this year. So that was fun.
That's amazing.
Is there anything that you specifically ask of members of this committee?
Interesting for me is the perspective on development here. It's very conservative from the standpoint of the city being a part of any economic development deal. There are other people who sit in those same seats that have differing degrees of what an economic development deal should look like. They all want it, but some would say it's privately pushed, like the market itself, and the idea of I call it public incentives sometimes is acidic in some of their mouths. I would say that you're a part of a group called Virginia First Cities for a reason. That means your unemployment, your poverty, or of a certain number that is akin to what's in Norfolk. And so in that respect, you're not Loudoun, you're not Virginia Beach. So I think to convince ourselves that we are of a stature of their kind of understanding that private interest would just naturally bring itself into an area without incentives. And I'll tell you, Town Center was incentivized heavily by Virginia Beach, okay? And so for me, it would be helpful to the degree that you have relationships with my 7 bosses, that you talk to them about what it takes to do an economic development deal. I got a text, and I won't say from whom, but when Danville put a chicken hatchery, that when Northam showed up out there and they cut a ribbon and everyone was excited about jobs and what have you, and I got why the heck don't we have kind of that announcement? And I said, I don't know if you've been to Harrisonburg or to the Eastern Shore lately, but if you want that kind of resource, it takes land and or a pad-ready site, and 2, it takes an acceptance by surrounding neighbors that you don't mind that kind of smell. So we can go get chicken hatcheries all you want. I just don't know whether or not that's what we should do here in this city. And what I think they were doing, and I'm being probably too flippant, is I think that they wanted, like anybody, they want progress and or movement. And I think to do so, it's going to require that the city incentivize deals. And so if you're asking, what I'm telling you is to help encourage in your positions, because are they appointed or appointed?
Appointed.
So they appointed you for a reason. And so in modeling, when we bring public-private partnerships where we've got to do something like the Virginian, for one, that you say it's a good deal. Because you're in business yourselves, you know how these things work, and sometimes it requires incentives. Because I do believe that we have momentum. I do believe that there is interest. I do believe that we can grow. It's just going to require that we partner, and that means skin in the game, which then means money on some of these deals.
Y'all know that.
Right.
We thank you for coming this morning.
Oh, I listen. This is
Great to have
it's a
you.
blast. I didn't bring any presents. Looks like you guys got some presents for
Santa
me.
Claus already came to us.
No, I was. Where's mine? Is there something?
Oh,
No.
you're getting
Oh, okay. Well, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you so very much
Thank
for
you.
letting me come by and say hi. And if you can pop by this weekend, come on through. And well, appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much.
So remember that in a year when it's time for my review, and you know, you can call 7 people and say that. Hopefully that same.
We'll give you a passing grade.
What'd you say?
The other occupants of these seats, you know, it's up to them.
Well,
Don't worry
like
about
you
that.
said, talk is talk. You know, until
Absolutely.
listen, I made some folks pretty upset with me last week, and stepping out the way we did through City Council on raising that starting salary for a police officer to be the highest in Central Virginia. Before I got out, I told Margette last night I went over to the firehouse that's right next door, and that's both a boon and sometimes not so great boon that everything's so very close. So there are 15 to 20 firefighters who are not very happy with me. But I do this. I do tell you news in person as opposed to hide from it and own it. So I'm going to make calls on things that are going to be my call. And you might disagree with me, but I'll always explain where and how I'm coming from. It's because I said to firefighters stayed here, I said, all the momentum is great, but if the din and noise becomes that this city's unsafe, I'll tell you, for all the revenue that you want, that's required to have me pay you more, there won't be that. Because people won't come eat, they won't come shop, they won't come live if they feel that a city's unsafe. So you have to stem that tide pretty quick. So that's why council captured the storyline, and we changed it, and that was strategic. It wasn't reactionary, because we've been talking about it before. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Ms. Upshur, do we have anything to go into closed session for,
No.
Mr. Craddock? Okay. The incentive committee will meet immediately following this meeting, so whoever's on that committee, please stick around. Our next meeting is Thursday, January the 20th of the new year. And does anyone have anything else to present for the good of the cause?
Hope you
Okay.
all have a wonderful holiday.
For me, everybody have a wonderful holiday. Staff, you guys, fantastic job for 2021. Thank you. This meeting is officially adjourned.